What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode. That's right, this channel's not dead yet on my channel. As always, I'm Jay, and of course, I've got my movie bros with me. I got Steve, aka Old Raiden Gaming, and Ricardo. Guys, say what's up to the crowd there.
What's up to the crowd there?
I knew you're gonna try. I knew you guys were gonna be pulling some of that shit. But anyway, yes, back in action here. It's been too long, and today we are discussing the 1987 classic sci-fi actioner, RoboCop. And for those of you who don't know, what the hell's the matter with you, first of all? But second of all, RoboCop, like I said, it's a badass 80s sci-fi action flick directed by Paul Verhoeven, who a lot of people know from directing Total Recall, Starship Troopers, Basic Instinct, and then the lesser of Basic Instinct, which is Showgirls, which we were talking a little bit before, and that it definitely didn't do the best for anyone's career in that. Although Kyle MacLachlan didn't really have any issues, but I know one lady in particular from Saved by the Bell didn't really have the best time doing that movie or afterwards, right?
Listen, guys, we can't let him get away with this.
And we won't. This is sexist pigism of the worst kind.
No, it's definitely one of those those upper echelon '80s movies, and I mean, just listen to the title, RoboCop. That sounds like D plus at best movie.
I mean, it's 80s movie. It's an 80s movie. Yeah, 80s movie. So I mean, it's par for the course for cheesy name.
True, but
So
like any movie that's named RoboCop, where a guy is basically dressed in like basically a bride prosthesis, has no business being this good. From the production design to the music to like the actors in this movie, because there's like a who's who of freaking great actors who've done like everything under the sun. I mean, Peter Weller, he's kind of faded into obscurity, then came back out of obscurity to be making appearances at cons where he's taking pictures with 50 million people saying, "Hey, remember when RoboCop shot that guy in the?" And he's like, "Oh, great."
again,
um, Nancy Allen, of course, she's been in dozens of movies over the years. Kind of slowed down after RoboCop 3, I think, but she was really prevalent in the 80s and kind of like tail end of the 70s. Like I think she was one of the mean girls in Carrie, if I remember correctly. Kurtwood Smith, Red Foreman himself, and honestly, growing up, this is the movie that I knew him as. But he did such a great job in that '70s show that everyone else, knows him as that wise, sarcastic a-hole who wants to put a foot in your ass.
I actually forgot about that. He was in RoboCop until I rewatched it after a 70s show came out. Like, oh, that's
Right,
him.
right. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is not Red Foreman. Well, it kind of is, but and then you get Miguel Ferrer, who was George Clooney's cousin. Rest in peace, by the way, to Miguel Ferrer, who was Bob Morton. Ronnie Cox, kind of talked about this before. Dude loves being a bad guy. Dick Jones, um, being a jerk, whether it's being a jerk Starfleet captain on like TNG, the Next Generation for Star Trek, or just being the president of the United States in the fun action Captain America movie from the '90s with the fake rubber ears on his costume.
If
Um,
only his name wasn't Dick Johnson, it'd be perfect.
Johnson. Yes, sir.
Dan O'Hurley, the old guy, the old man rather, who was the random Shamrock mask guy from Halloween 3. And then Robert Duquet as Sergeant Reed. Dude was a badass in the role. He was in a lot of blaxploitation films over the earlier decades too. But the guy was like just a class act, and I think he passed all the way back in '08 too. Funny enough, which is wild. Um, but yeah, this movie's praised as being like the smart satirical film with like great action and like very, very much a focus and kind of like subtext on like impactful themes, including like man, machine, humanity, and of course corporate overreach. And I mean, just in my opinion, the resolve, not to sound pretentious, of the human spirit. I mean, I think that probably legitimizes this video right there with that sentence, right? but yeah, I talked to you guys about this before, but this is definitely one of the top 10 VHSs that I kept watching over and over again growing up. And my parents didn't care if a movie was rated R as long as there wasn't too much like sex or anything like that. Everything else was like, oh, that's fake, right? That's fake, right? And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And they're like making sure that I wasn't like, trying to like, if I watched movies that were overly violent, that I wasn't trying to go for scissors and like hurt people or whatever, which, thank God I never did any of that stuff.
What a contrast to now, huh? Where everyone's so scared of like the
Yeah,
very
things are so
tame movies that
different.
are out now. And I mean,
Yeah.
just watching this movie alone is just like disturbing in hindsight.
Well,
But
we so it's almost like a reverse desensitizing if I'm being like on a tangent here. It's like we were so desensitized to violence and now everyone's like so appalled like at like a pinprick of violence essentially. Not to say that this is that case. They definitely go
no.
hard on the gore and
Oh yeah,
practical effects.
so hard.
But I mean, your guys, what are you guys' first experiences with this movie or memories?
I'll just say for me, obviously, being a '90s kid, I probably saw it when I was like, who knows, 6 or 7. As a kid, you see RoboCop, and I think I maybe watched a cartoon. So, you put two and two together, like, oh well, they have a cartoon, there's a movie. I like this, but probably I think the main thing I remember as a kid was obviously the beginning of him becoming RoboCop and the whole like him basically just getting like shot up is something that you just won't forget because it's a traumatizing scene.
Yep.
And wouldn't be surprised that probably messed a lot of kids up back in the day.
Shit got real when you saw Murphy's arm getting shot off. Army, what the hell am I talking about? Murphy's arm getting shot off, or and everything like that. It's
Yeah.
definitely and it's funny enough, right? It's like one of the many rated R movies that became a cartoon. Was that a thing in the '80s, Steve? I mean, for real, they made like '80s cartoons after hyper violent movies like Rambo, RoboCop.
Rambo, RoboCop. What else was there? I know there's something else. I just can't think of it. Was there a Terminator one?
I
Why
I
do I
don't
think there
know.
was?
I feel you know what I think there. This wasn't. I don't think this was the '80s, but in the '90s there was a Highlander cartoon that was like
Yep.
totally had nothing to do with the movie except for like somehow Ramirez was still alive. But anyway, enough spitballing here, guys. Let's just jump and dive right into this film. So right off the bat, you get that satire and everything because we're introduced to Media Break.
This is Media Break. You give us 3 minutes, and we'll give you the world.
We got Casey Wong and the blonde chick. I don't know who she is, and she gets replaced after like the second movie. No one cares.
Um, she was in Entertainment Tonight. What the hell is her name?
Oh, that's right. She was,
No
huh?
idea.
That's all right.
Now I gotta look.
Tell us down in the comments. Let's leave it up to the audience
Yeah.
that watches this.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm still gonna look, even though they're gonna tell us in the comments.
But and the thing that was funny is like back then this was like a joke, but nowadays this is how newscasts roll. They're like, mile a minute, bad news, good news, commercial break, and of course the commercial that we get is the Jarvik heart line, and then talking about a sports heart like a Yamaha or a Kawasaki or whatever the hell. I'm like, how the f are you gonna have a sport like heart with like a motor that I'm guessing this is gonna pump like super fast, like a cheetah or whatever? Wouldn't that shit like just literally jump right out of your like chest or something like that?
Yeah, it makes no sense compared to a cyborg cop. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Touche, touche, sir. As I sip my tea here,
Yeah,
but
nothing in this movie makes sense. So.
I mean, then funny enough, again, it's one of those things where this movie is really good, and I think you'd agree with me, Steve, at foreshadowing, where we are alluded to, or we brought in on the issues going on between the fact that OCP has bought the police department, and then the next bit was introducing Clarence Boddicker. So we're kind of seeing that he's like a guy that's responsible for a lot of police brutalities and deaths and stuff like that. But at the end of the newscast, they wish him well and say good luck to the officer that's basically identified Boddicker, and he's basically on his deathbed. And then we cut right to Metro West, the old West, which a lot of Western kind of old school OK Corral kind of things and shootouts going on in this movie. Where they work for a living. Don't forget that. We are introduced to the nicely chiseled jaw, good-looking young man of Alex J. Murphy, real straight arrow cop, looks like a decent guy. He's coming into basically the war zone. Where are you from?
Metro South.
Welcome to hell. And then he's brought through the co-ed locker room, which one second you're seeing guys bare asses in the shower, and then you're seeing ladies just suit up with nothing under their armor and stuff. I'm like, oh, 80s movie right there.
Yep.
And funny enough, and I definitely want to like recommend anybody watch the new documentary that came out a little while ago called RoboDoc. I found out that all of those officers, Manson, Starkweather, Ramirez, they're all named after serial killers, which I found very, very interesting and very funny. And of course, as they're talking about all this stuff, one of the guys says, F them, let's strike or whatever. And then Reed hears that and he's like, we're officers. We're not plumbers. We're not whatever. We don't strike. And then 2 seconds later, he's taken the nameplate off of the locker because the officer who was basically fighting for his life is dead. And he says, as usual, because this is a common occurrence around here, you know, any donations give to Cecil for the family.
Cecil, the generic 80s nerd guy.
Yeah.
Would you want him in the field though? Let's be honest. Would you
No.
want him in the field?
No.
Well, notice he's always in the office.
He's a desk guy.
If this was Police Academy's universe, maybe Cecil might be some maybe he might be paired up with Bobcat Goldthwait and stuff. So yeah, after that, Murphy is introduced to Ann Lewis, one of the most badass chicks. Not a Mary Sue. She can actually hold her own. And then all Murphy says is like, cool.
Glad to know you, Murphy.
So after that, we cut right to the OCP headquarters. Kenny Johnson and Bob Morton, who was just pissed because he's like looking for an end to be able to have basically his time to shine with the old man. And they're just talking about how it's going to be basically Dick Jones like parading around his new Ed 209 project that's going to be so successful and everything. So yeah, this presentation's going very well, I guess.
It does go well for the demonstration.
I just want to know what the budget for blood packs in this movie was. But that's another thing too. It's like the added to the realism, like it's really happening. Like just the effects, it's very gruesome, and it's sometimes it's hard to watch, especially in the scene coming up soon. But
oh yeah,
yeah, it's brutal.
Dick, I'm very disappointed. I'm sure it's only a glitch.
I mean, the old man clearly is a lot more upset, but not for the reasons that I would think he should be, right? And then as they're walking out, they're talking about, that's going to be $5 million. He had a wife and family, blah, 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 blah. You know? And of course, the dog-eat-dog world of corporations being what it is, Bob Morton comes up and is like, sir, we've been preparing for things like this with the RoboCop program. Maybe you've heard of it. And then Dick Jones is like, listen, guy, get up out of here. And the old man is like, Dick! You know?
We need some new blood.
Exactly. And then of course this is where we make the connection, because freaking Bob Morton's been pulling the strings and moving different people to different precincts, including our dude Mr. Murphy over here, you know, which when I was little, I didn't pay attention to these scenes. I just paid attention to the bam 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 bam, bam, you know, and action stuff, right? But as someone who's more mature, connecting the dots, I'm like, at first I was a little upset for him getting killed, you know, getting kneecapped and stuff later in the movie. Spoilers. But now I'm like, this guy deserved it. I don't feel bad for him. Nope, don't feel bad for him at all.
The only good person at OCP is maybe the old man and the guy that's hanging out with Morton.
Johnson?
Glasses. Yeah. He seemed like a nice dude. But other than that, everyone's a piece of crap.
So then we cut back to good old Alex Murphy taking a break from the patrol with Ann Lewis, getting coffees, and he's just there doing his little gunslinging thing. And that's, you know, hint, hint, wink, wink. We got to remember that for later in the movie.
I love the foreshadowing in this movie. It's done really well, and I've forgotten how older movies really told the story.
Yeah.
Because, you know, fast forward to now, movies are like 2 hours, 3 hours long, so they have all this time for exposition and things like that. Where movies like this, yeah, is it not good? I want to see it. Is it?
It's okay. It's very good, very well done. Personally, I don't think I'm going to watch it again. You know, unless it's Halloween time, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts of Nosferatu. I think I mentioned it before. I like the fact of how they, you know, had the lead up of Nicholas Holt's character going to the castle. And I felt like they should have just made towards like the climax of the movie be more towards the castle. The castle scenes are like fucking scary, but also the cinematography is awesome.
Yeah.
Will I see it again? Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I know it's kind of gaining steam right now because I see a bunch of Nosferatu like behind the scenes videos popping up, or behind the scenes of
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård in the costume and everything like that.
Dude, he disappeared into that role again. Like, this guy is like,
he
was in the worst movie of the year and the best movie of the year, according to some people, which I thought was very ironic.
I thought what was like the most intimidating was not even just what Nosferatu looked like. It was more his voice. Like his voice, please do these, do.
Yes.
Like the way he did it was like awesome.
It was unsettling. I'm like that attitude. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is gonna
Right. But
go
yeah,
down,
other
man.
than that, I totally forgot what we were talking about. But yeah, Nosferatu.
Well,
RoboCop.
yeah, well, Robocop, but also to the point that you were trying to make, Steve, before I rudely cut you
Oh,
off. I'm
right.
sorry. How old movies kind of would tell and foreshadow a story, you know?
Yeah. And like you said earlier in the beginning with the news segments, it really sets up the theme of the movie and the satirical nature of it and the violent nature of it,
Yeah,
and really sets the ball rolling and talks about the gangs in Detroit. So yeah.
absolutely. And speaking of gangs in Detroit, while they're kind of taking a break, they get a call about a van, that just blew up a bank or robbed it. So they get in pursuit, and this is where we're introduced to the good old Boddicker gang.
You burned the fucking money! I had to blow the door. What do you want? It's as good as Mark, you asshole! You stupid asshole!
This is where the memes and quotes begin.
Yeah,
Mr. Clarence Boddicker.
my favorite line was, "Mind if I zip it up?"
Yes.
Oh, we
Yeah.
haven't got there yet.
We haven't gotten there yet, but that's a good line too. All of them have fucking great lines, man.
There's so
they're
many
all
one-liners in
awesome,
this
man.
movie. Oh,
Oh man.
so good.
And I can't wait
And
till we
one's
get
coming
it.
up very soon.
Yep. Yep. So they're riding down, they're trying to get away, and then all of a sudden the cops are going. So obviously, what do they think? Okay, get the guns ready. We're gonna open up the back. They open up the back. The car's not even there. It's on the side, and then you see freaking Murphy just dual wielding like bang, 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 bang. I'm like, holy shit. This is like a reverse train robbery right here, right? Because this is like a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
bandits shooting at the freaking guys, but in this instance, the train, proverbially, the van is actually criminals, and they're the good guys trying to wrangle them. And that's kind of the funny thing is like, again, old west. This, Detroit is kind of like the old west in old Detroit and everything. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing because there's a few
Hmm.
different shots in here that look like old school, like western, like coming into a saloon or like drawing the gun and all that other stuff. And I'm like, that's some awesome stuff. It's like an
I didn't
ode.
think of
It's like a
that.
sci-fi ode to old
Yeah.
western kind of stuff and stylings and everything. So yeah, they end up tracking them down, or not tracking them. They end up firing at them, and they're trying to get away from them. So one of the guy that burnt the money gets hit. So clearly, we know who the weakest link is here and who the dead weight is.
And you fly, Bobby.
They toss him right out. They try and get away. Goes right into the windshield for Lewis and Murphy. Then they track them down to a warehouse, which ends up showing up later in the movie, of course.
Yeah.
Again, some foreshadowing and stuff like that.
Can we
Anyway,
say
Or
that
budget
these-
cuts, one of the two.
Can we
Could
say
be
that
budget
these
cuts.
guys have- can we say that these guys have just like terrible aim though, like in the truck, like
they have well, okay, when they're in motion or they're moving, they have the aim of a stormtrooper. When they're cornering somebody, they got pretty
Point
good
blank
aim.
range. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're point blank,
getting
so
it.
yeah, exactly. This was the first scene where I'll buy that for $1 comes in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
I'd buy that for $1.
You guys ever play Smash TV?
I think I did
Oh.
way
I think
back.
so.
So Smash
Okay,
TV
my-
is kind of like a cross. It takes like elements of like the satirical stuff from RoboCop, like the I'll buy that for $1,
Yep.
and like Running Man and Total Recall. But you're like in a game show, and it's like a twin stick shooter, and you
Oh,
go from
yeah,
room to
yeah.
room to room, win prizes. But the cut-ins are just like that. I'll buy that for $1 and things like that. So it's very similar to that.
Oh my god, that's too funny. Yeah, I think wasn't that a midway game? Wasn't that a midway
It
game? back in the
was.
day?
You're exactly right.
So they get tracked down. Murphy goes in. Lewis goes in one way. What are you doing, you guys? Hey, we're just trying to be badasses, right? Okay, cool. Lewis goes up, sees Smiley over there taking a piss, and then of course, like you just said a little while ago, Ricardo, your favorite line. Mind if I zip this up?
Yeah.
And of course, typical woman, she's looking at it, and then bam, she gets hit. Why you gotta look at his piece, man? Why can't you just arrest him? What's the matter? You an idiot?
Maybe she was curious. Who knows? I don't
She was chewing that gum pretty hard when she's looking down too.
know.
I'm surprised she survived that because she fell right off that rail down to the floor too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
but that's nothing compared to what happens to our boy here, Alex J. Murphy. He's about to freaking get the other guy, and then and he's like got him like dead to rights. He's like, "Your move, creep, dead or alive, you're coming with me." Again, great one-liners. But
Foreshadowing.
then,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, he bit off more than he could chew, because that's when Nash and the other guy comes through, and he is just, oh, I get stressed just thinking about it, because
Are you a good cop?
the cops don't like me, and I don't like
I
cops.
like cops.
What do you think? What do you think of me? I think you're slime, buddy.
Yes.
Oh, that's the smart thing to say right there, isn't
Right?
it, Alex? Huh? I'm like, oh my god.
And
Oh
gone. Yep.
god.
Yeah, that
And
was.
We'll
they
give
show
the
it.
man a hand.
Yeah.
Can we say like this is probably? I mean, out of all the whole entire like piece of the movie, like this is the most like memorable scene
Oh,
in the film. Even though it's
it,
like gruesome, but it's like the most memorable scene in
well,
the film, I think, in my
it's
opinion.
it's that turning point, man. It really is. It's that turning point. Like, this is that shock and awe, moment. And of course, again, compared to the director's cut and this, like, they put a lot more in, but I feel like how sporadic it is and how they cut it down in this, it's a little bit more impactful for me personally. And they're just blasting him with shotguns and stuff, and then that dead shot right in his head, and it's like you get that freeze right there. And you can kind of tell he's kind of like barely breathing though too. Like, if you watch
Right.
it back, you can still see that there's still someone there, like something or someone in there, but not really. And of course, they go off, and Lewis finds Murphy. I mean, the dude is gone. I mean, but then they try to rush him to the hospital. I think they were just doing that like for an obligation thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the doctors really weren't trying. If anything,
You
I
can hear
feel
it in
like
their voices, the way they're delivering the lines. It's like, we're doing this, but we know it's a lost cause,
yeah, like they don't put him to like a machine defibrillator, and they put like a shot in him, but I feel like maybe that shot wasn't like adrenaline so much as it was just something to kind of like make him pump out his blood more so that he would actually die. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe I don't
maybe.
know. Maybe I'm just thinking of it more.
Quick question though. When was this like I know this movie came out in 87, but like what was the timeline? Maybe I missed it. Of like
Uh,
I don't think they really say.
I don't think it says. I'm gonna assume that it. I mean, assumptions being what they are, I would assume that it was like kind of like probably a 30-year gap or something. I mean, obviously we place it that way because that's what we're living in now, kind of, and it kind of feels like that now. I mean, for God's sake, this is kind of like how the world is now,
Yeah.
it's modern, it's got some more technology, but all in all, it's kind of still got that old school feel. So probably like a good 30-35 year age gap, maybe. But
Hmm.
they probably didn't even intend. They like, hey, this is like every city in America in the near future. And even the cartoon, I think, says something about in the near future, old Detroit, a good
I just
officer,
looked at, I
Alex
did
J.
a
Murphy.
quick look, and it says the novelization indicates that RoboCop takes place over the course of between 2040 and 2044, like all the different movies. So
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so we're kind of close enough, right? I
yeah,
mean, we're closer to that than we are in 1987.
that's true.
I'm sorry, Steve.
I feel old.
Yeah, he flatlines, and then the next thing we see is that innovative first person shot with the scan lines and everything. That's when we start kind of getting introduced to this new way of vision, this robo vision. And again, very innovative. And you see movies kind of going in this direction, and even video games did for a little while, right? Like Doom, freaking recently, Hardcore Henry and shit like that. Like different movies taking that first person look. And Rogue City had done a great job by doing that method. They honestly, that's exactly how it is to be RoboCop. You went from this major scene, and then now it's like this new kind of rebirth thing going on. Like, he's not talking, there's no action. You're getting these snippets of their twisting the screen, or is he still around? Oh, is he still remembering? Does he know who we are? Oh, we're gonna blank out his memory. And I'm like, these people are so callous. Like, well,
Right.
technically he signed a waiver, so and he is dead, so he did sign his body over, so he can technically do what he wants. And Bob Morton's
Oh,
like, lose the arm.
lose the arm. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. Probably the best part about this scene is like they don't really show him. It's like, what does he look like? He's like the audience is wondering and wondering, and like when he walks to the police station after they finalize him, and it's like little quick glances at him. So it's like they really set it up really nice.
Then again, innovative shots. He's coming through the people applauding him, and then you see randomly on the monitor he's walking by it, and then there's a camera on him, so it's like, and it's in tandem with his first person view of him walking down. Little things like that just
Yep.
enhance it, man. And like you said, walking through the precinct, obscured by the glass, don't, don't, don't. I mean, you get a sound system. If I had a nice sound system, I would blast the shit out of that. That's the audio, because like even on the soundbar that I have on my wall, the dum, dum, and anyone else detect that droning hum when he's
Oh,
RoboCop?
how do you not? That is like a signature sound, and I'm so glad the game Rogue City had that as well. I had to turn off the footsteps, unfortunately, because running as RoboCop with that, it gets a little annoying.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it's awesome. But
Oh
yeah,
my
that
God.
that low hum of the like the motors in him or whatever it is, the engine, it's
Yeah.
just so iconic. Like,
And I
yeah,
never realized that until this
really
watch for some reason. And I'm just like, wait a
interesting.
minute, I'm just like, oh shit, that's him. That's fucking him.
Mm-hmm.
That's him right there. Like, holy shit.
Yep.
And I never knew that this was a speaker. This little opening right here, that's a speaker to project his voice. That's why he's like, dead or alive, you're coming, and it's kind of like an echo. Like if you look on his armor,
Oh,
there's an opening right here. That's literally like a bullhorn built inside of him. But I love how Reed is. He's like, the hell is this shit, huh? And then all of a sudden, like he's coming through and he just stops talking. He's like, and everyone else is like, what is this shit? So they go down and they see his little gated chair and everything, and you know they're walking him through. They're showing you that he has baby food basically dispensing for his organics. So yeah, the slow reveal works for me though. Like you see him and you see how he's just kind of like hooked up to the chair and everything, and then we go to the freaking gun range.
iconic sound. Iconic.
Again, sound effects, the audio, the Foley
Yep.
department, chef's kiss. Love the
Everything
sound
is
effects.
brutal
Love
and
it in
hard
this.
hitting in this movie, whether it be the violence, the sound design, some of the shots. It's just crazy good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then of course, as he's going to put the gun back,
Roll the gun.
What are they gonna do? Replace us?
listen, say what you will, but the way that the helmet and everything looks is so badass. So bad. You know what's funny too? RoboCop was kind of inspired of like Judge Dredd and stuff like that. Another movie I hope we do, one day. But basically, the first sculpture designs of his helmet were literally the comic book Dredd helmet with the little X thing going and stuff like that. So someone probably said we can't do that because it looks too similar, which was a
Right.
smart move anyway. And I just love the sleekness, the color, the way that it is. I mean, that's freaking urethane rubber or whatever it is. Like in between like the shooting days, they actually had to repaint because it was cracking so much from like squishing and stuff like that too. Like the later movies, they
Mm.
actually did rigid material that you didn't need to worry about, but this one they had to like work with it. And it looks so good. And I mean, I hate to say it, but Peter Weller was probably the best guy to be in a suit like that because he was so scrawny. Like this just looks like a regular beefed up, like and he could move in it like fairly,
He looks enormous in the suit.
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
fucking tank, man.
Them
Pretty
calves,
real.
bro.
Those piston caps.
Right?
So all that's happening. We're in full effect here. He's gonna go out he's gonna go out to patrol and stuff. So Bob Morton's like, he needs a car, and then Reed tosses it. This take took like 30 to 50 takes because it's almost like Pam was smeared on his hand or something. He just kept on hitting it and swatting it and not catching the keys.
Thank you. Sure.
A little bit of personality from RoboCop right away. Like, thank you. Did you guys notice the same way he accelerated out of the garage, just like he was alive?
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm thinking about it, that is right. Yep. He had to like skirt right out of there, get some sparks picked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so right off the bat, we get the liquor store. I'd buy that for $1.
Once again,
Old dude's freaking watching the TV, laughing his ass off because there's, probably some bimbo-tastic stuff happening on the TV, unfortunately. And his wife is right behind him, trying to put all the money away and stuff and get everything together. And then we see this not so suspicious guy who is also in, I think, Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Now that because I watched that recently. But anyway, he walks past some comic books, which is funny. I never noticed that before either. and I guess there were some comics that kind of inspired RoboCop a little bit, like Iron Man and some
Really?
armor things apparently in there. If
Oh,
you can get
wow.
a freeze frame, um, but he gets the register. He's like, "Hi, can I help you?" Yeah, I want to put the money in the bag and open the safe. And she's like, "What? Open that goddamn safe!"
Open the goddamn safe! We don't have a safe. Shit! There's your goddamn safe!
I had to suspend my disbelief for the scene a little bit because, I mean, it's kind of a nice hiding spot to have it there, but is he really stacking all the beer cans every time he goes in there to get money?
Like, does no one want to take a beer from there, like
Yeah.
as a one off? Like, and this is what I was talking about with some of those old West scenes. RoboCop goes in and pulls the doors like this, like
Saloon doors. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
telling the guy to surrender. He's under arrest, and then the guy's just like, "Fuck me."
70 times.
He just keeps on going. He just keeps on saying it, and he's like, "Bat, bat, 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 bat." But also, isn't the trajectory a little off? Because the guy runs, and when RoboCop goes like this, and somehow he doesn't go forward when he gets clotheslined. He goes that way into the freezers when he gets clotheslined. You know what I'm saying? If you think about it. I mean, again, suspension of disbelief because it was still pretty sick, personally.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a little weird, but it was still pretty awesome. Still pretty awesome. And by the way, is that guy dead or alive? Just saying. I feel like
I'm gonna say badly injured for sure.
he's gonna have like headgear. He's gonna have screws in his head,
Right.
kind of like Vinny Paz, probably.
You guys catch the nice grin from the wife as RoboCop leaves?
I
She's like,
didn't.
oh. The guy's all like perplexed still, and she's like, hmm.
So that scene happens, and then we get the next scene, which I have dubbed the pew pew in the pee pee.
Yeah.
Is this the next scene, or is there something before that? I forget.
No,
No, this is
that's the
this
next
is the
scene.
next one.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, this is the next one. This is pretty rough.
To me,
Yeah.
it's like one of like the cheesiest like villains
Yep.
in this movie, and like
Yep.
You have pretty hair.
why do you
Oh,
have
God.
that big? Why do you have like that big of a knife? And on top of that too, it's like obviously content. They're basically gonna sexually
Mhm.
say SAR basically.
Yeah.
There you go.
And, like
Yeah.
it's like do you like out in the open like that, like huge knife, like the hell's going on?
Old Detroit, man. Old Detroit.
Robocop though, he's like, hey, protect innocent, protect. All right, right through
Any means necessary.
Yeah.
That was tricky though. He's very lucky that she didn't like close her legs at the wrong time, or that she didn't dip down or whatever. Because yeah, but literally, brr, and the other guy knew he wasn't fucking around. He wasn't gonna try it. That
The
was
line these two say before that is just like, my God.
yeah,
I'm not gonna repeat it, but it's just like, wow.
yeah.
I miss the 80s. It's so in your face.
So out of pocket. It was so out of pocket, man.
Yep.
Speaking of out of pocket, the next scene we get is a hostage situation with a former city council member or mayor, right? No, city council member, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's holding a mayor hostage, yeah.
Yeah. This one was so out of pocket. This was random shit right here.
First, don't fuck with me. I'm a desperate man. And second, I want some fresh coffee. And third, I want a recount. And no matter how it turns out, I want my old job back.
Sure, let the mayor go, and we'll even. How about we give you this? We'll give you. Hey, we'll throw in this or whatever. And then the guy's like, "Don't jerk me off."
By the way, it's the first mention of the famous car in this movie, the 6000 SUX.
Yep, the 6000 SUX exactly. He's like, "Don't jerk me around."
Yeah, that's a great
What?
line. Don't jerk me off.
Yeah, or don't jerk me off. When I get jerked off, you want to see? And then I swear to God,
Yeah,
this is
that's right.
this is one of the scenes that Iron Man ripped off. As much as that movie is good,
Yeah,
Iron Man ripped
True.
off some stuff. He punches right through and pulls the guy through the fucking wall, and then he just freaking decks him right out the window.
No due process for RoboCop, just murder.
So yeah, after that, RoboCop's been cleaning up the town. He's getting the highlights on the news. What's the message you have for kids watching? Stay out of trouble.
Don't do it.
You forgot the pregnant pause before he said it. Just looks at the camera.
I just thought that was like his delayed processing and computing. Stay out of trouble. Gotta let the servos and the hum go, you know?
Stay out of trouble.
Of course, we cut to Bob basically in his glories talking with another fellow VP or vice president or whatever. And they like, oh, so cute. They tap cards together and they go into the bathroom and stuff. Yeah.
The VP
So,
lounge.
yeah, the VP lounge. So they're talking, basically, they're having it back and forth. And of course, Bob, being too big for his britches and being that type of guy, hotshot, is talking shit about, Dick Jones. And then everyone proceeds to filter out of the bathroom. And the guy he was talking to pisses himself and leaves because of Dick Jones actually coming out of the stall and everything. And they kind of have this like weird, awkward, like,
It's almost sensual.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't know, like if it was intentional, but it's like,
Congratulations, Bob.
I used to be a young up and coming music too, and I used to call the old man names and say things. I used to call him Iron Butt, Boner. One time I even called him asshole, and I'm just like, okay.
You always know this is the '80s movie, but the hardest insult is asshole and iron butt and boner. When's the last time you heard boner in a movie when it's not meant in a sexual way?
Shit, I think the last time I heard it was literally a Pauly Shore movie, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh God, sorry.
Don't tax my gig so hardcore, Custer.
But the next thing we get is like very interesting because it's like RoboCop's like basically doing like his shutdown maintenance, whatever. This isn't like his time to go out on patrol, right? Because he has Windows updates to install, maybe.
Hopefully his camera works, unlike mine today.
I just think if you think about the retro like tech stuff and apply modern technology shit to it, it just makes it that much more funny.
You mean the graphs and dot matrix paper they use? Not at all, Jay. Come on, it's so modern.
Oh my God. Oh man. And all of a sudden on the monitors, we're just seeing like those flashes of like, Clarence Boddicker and everyone just killing him. He's basically reliving his death again. It's like, again, the man's coming out of the machine a little bit. This is not something anticipated. And all of a sudden it's like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like,
Such great gifts out of this movie.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden he shoots up, he's still unconscious. And then the bang, like brings him like to consciousness. And one of the scientists gets like a small snippet, like, what the hell was that? And it's like, all of a sudden he's just like, boom, he's like on a mission. He goes right back out and like, where are you going? Blah, blah, blah. Because he's supposed to be on maintenance. So he's like just going down the hall. Lewis is passing him because her and her new partner have the perp that they're bringing in. And then she's like seeing the people coming down. She's like, Murphy, it's you. He just doesn't know how to compute with that. And then he goes out, and of course we're starting to get reintroduced to the Boddicker gang. We got Emil going to the freaking gas station and antagonizing this poor college student who has to pay 6 figures to get a simple education that will not pay his money back. And then all of a sudden, it just so happens, coincidentally, this is the guy that RoboCop runs into, and he says, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me." And then all of a sudden, that's like everything rushing through, like, we killed you. And he's like, and then RoboCop has to play back literally the last 5 seconds. And as he's getting blasted, he's just like,
Windows updates.
And then all of a sudden, biggest explosion ever. But then on the other aspect of it, freaking 0 to 100 miles an hour in 5 seconds. I don't know how that works continuity wise with the motorcycle. But anyway, it is what it is. But Emil gets his motorcycle shot, and then he loses control and just basically bites it. And somehow RoboCop doing his Jason walk is there in like less than 5 seconds, and he's just asking, "Who are you? Who are you?"
One of the funniest sound bites ever.
Say though that Emil probably got it the worst out of all the goons.
Oh yeah, well, that's alluding to what comes next, but he definitely did for sure.
I meant to mention this earlier, but what's with the weird yellow wrapped cigarettes? I pick up on stupid things. The only person that didn't have these type of cigarettes was Boddicker. Everyone else smoked these yellow wrapped cigarettes. I'm like, what? Is this futuristic?
It was Death Sticks before Death Sticks in
There
Star
you
Wars.
go.
That's what it was. So that happens. He brings him in, and then he goes down to the server room, and he's like going in there, and then Cecil's like, "Can I help you?" No. And then basically the proverbial middle finger.
This is a restricted area.
And just inserts the good old fashioned old school, probably precursor to the USB, right into the computer systems, goes through everything, and then finally he happens upon Emil and his gang, and then by doing that, he sees the murders, and then he sees his old face, Alex J. Murphy, and stuff. And then that again, it's just layering and just adding more to like the whole rediscovery purpose of him rediscovering who he is and shit, which is very, very interesting. Because next thing you know, after that happens, we're we're going to visit his old house with him, and he's walking through the empty house except for a couple like burnt remnants or like a broken mug and everything. But it's funny because it's just like as he's going through it, it's almost like I love this analogy, but it's basically like if you took an old VHS, put something on it, and then you recorded over it, and basically, the scan lines disappear. You see the flashbacks, and this is the Oscar scene right here because the music is really like compelling. The emotion is there, and it's kind of funny because he says this later. Again, kind of spoiling, but he says, "I can feel them, but I can't remember them." But there's some bits of that coming through, and you're definitely feeling something, and you're seeing him emote the shit out of this scene because first he's kind of like, and then all of a sudden he's like,
big clenched fists while he's like increasing speed. Yeah.
Yep. How about this? You make me an offer. Call me right now and.
Hey, have you thought it all over? Why not make me an offer?
And then we get him getting Nash, who was the smartest man, clearly, because he's like, hey, I'm going to pull a gun on an officer. Whack. Somebody grabs it. And then again, in the same motion, he's just like, ha ha. He kicks the guy right where the ball should be. But
he kicked his Robocop.
Yeah, so Bob Morton is with his two models who clearly are high out of their mind because the shit that's coming out of their mouths is just
and they're with
dumb.
him, so that's one other thing.
And then he's talking about, I love being with beautiful, intelligent women.
Anyone that says that is the opposite.
Exactly. And
the
then
opposite scenario.
Exactly. And then he goes to the door and knock knock. It's Clarence Boddicker. And the best line of the movie, arguably the best line of the movie, next to "Can you fly, Bobby?"
Bitches leave.
Yeah, bitches leave. It's so like he's off camera, he's walking in, bitches leave. It's like it's awesome.
I always think somebody would be like in like this in like a 70s like pimp movie, like bitches leave.
Bitches leave. And then yeah, oh my god. And then he proceeds to basically kneecap old man with some bullets. And he's just like bleeding profusely. He goes from 0 to 60. He's like, you know who I am? You're about, my legs. And of course, because DVDs weren't a thing back then, but Clarence putting it in the TV and everything. Dick Jones just basically gloating and stuff, even though he's not there. He's like, I bet you're on your knees right about now, begging for your life. And I'm like, damn, this man's spitting right here.
Yeah, that's
how do you know? What?
But and then he just teases him. He pulls the pin with his mouth. Boddicker does, puts it right in front of him with like 15 seconds or 10 seconds, which how the fuck did he get out of there in time before that shit exploded and not have any shrapnel?
Because he told the bitches to leave. They weren't in his way. He got out really quick.
I don't feel, like I said, I don't feel any sympathy for the guy. I didn't feel any sympathy. He got too big for his britches and he was kind of a douchebag. So good. Yeah, he got what he deserved.
I mean, I did like the fact that they kind of put him in there because you kind of feel like, oh, is he like working for these guys, and kind of find out he's just an asshole at the end of the day. And
exactly.
I mean, find out who the real villains are.
Exactly, 100%. But anyway, we get onto the next big action set piece. Probably the biggest action set piece, though, right? The cocaine factory. I think the cocaine factory is probably the number one action sequence in here.
Weird segue, but when I saw this movie again, I was like, had a flashback to New Jack City.
Oh,
when
God.
Nino had all the women with no tops on,
yes.
bagging the coke. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Man. But yeah, the setup was great because we're seeing Clarence talking shit to the guy who's literally peddling the stuff, and they just going back and forth. But it gets pretty messed up there when you're throwing around some racial slurs there, Clarence. Isn't it something that Red probably would have said back in his time in the Korean War, though? Maybe. I mean,
probably.
Probably. But hey, they're just kidding, right? But the best, the moment that always gets me is when he dips his fingers into the guy's like wine glass, and he's just like, and then not only that, the guy literally takes another sip of the wine. I'm like, what?
Not even seconds later, it's like a second. He's like,
I'm throwing out that drink. That's what I'm doing. Like, nah.
Nah, man. Nah, sorry. Can't do it. Can't do it, bro.
Can't do it.
Of course, we get the whole big thing of RoboCop busting down the door, and he's just like coming in there again, like it's like getting ready for a gunfight. We all know what's going to be happening next. He's the sheriff in town wrangling everybody. Kill shot, kill shot, kill shot. He's no looking people, shooting them this way, that way. I almost felt like it was like Naked Gun for a second or something. He's like, pew, 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 pew. And then especially when he goes like this in that 1 second, I will always stop and laugh at that scene right there when he's doing that. So yeah, he basically blows everybody away. The guy that was running the show, he gets shot by one of his own guys who gets shot, which I thought was hilarious. Totally the same guy getting pulled back, not by a wire, but by the sheer force of the shotgun or the assault rifle that he was being blasted with.
he hits the boxes, but continues to accelerate through the boxes. Once again, 80s showing skill and talent instead of just blowing up, filling out the film with CG that like we do now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Clarence tries to escape, but he jumps on the wrong platform and falls through a roof. And then RoboCop just proceeds to just like read him his Miranda rights while also simultaneously beating the shit out of him inadvertently.
What is this shit?
I mean,
how
he
many
kind
cans
of
of glass can I throw this man through?
he kind of asked for it by spitting in his face, right?
Yeah.
And killing him of all things.
Well, yeah, that's probably the first thing.
Right. RoboCop's like, I don't know why my programming is so aggressive to this man, but I'm gonna throw him through a whole bunch of fucking windows right now. And of course he folds, just like in that one scene from The Dark Knight. I know a squealer when I see one. He tells on freaking Dick Jones. So after he somehow manages to convince RoboCop that he's a cop still and that he can't kill him, he brings him in.
Book him.
What's the charge?
He's a cop killer.
And can I just say for like that angle, like the down and up angles that they do on RoboCop really work very well, because the dude's kind of short, if I'm being honest. I think he's a little bit shorter than Kurtwood Smith, but in that like shot, he looked like he was much, much taller and imposing. So sometimes it's all about the angles, kids. So after that happens, of course, he's going straight to Dick Jones to try and get everything done. But, oh, sorry, can't happen. You can't arrest the man because Directive 4. If he's a high-ranking OCP official, that's a no-go. You can't arrest, you can't do anything. And then that causes him to malfunction, which I thought that was pretty genius, because we would have had like a 5-second little arrest scene, and that would have been in the movie, but there would have been no conflict. There's like some legit conflict and some like programming going on and everything. So, and you can tell like the guy's pain as he's trying to fight against it and everything, and it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden, we've got Ed 209 coming right back out and just beating the shit out of him, blasting him, bashing him through doors and stuff. And then at one point he ends up getting his freaking visor messed up, and we're actually seeing the man in the machine, which I thought was pretty cool symbolically. And then somehow he's able to not only push the gun to the other arm and blow that off, but also evade all the bombs and then beat Ed 209 with his greatest weapon, stairs.
This man should play football. The pivots he's doing. Because you shoot the missiles, he's like doing 1 foot pivots, and he just miraculously misses the missile misses him.
Yeah, he gets down the stairs, and then he gets to the parking garage part, and then somehow the whole fleet of SWAT and police are there. They couldn't give him backup when he was alive, but all of a sudden, because an OCP guy called, oh my God, we're going to do this. Plus, it's that same guy who was the negotiator who didn't like him stealing his thunder too, so that was probably part of it too.
What about the two or three cops that come out like with the worst acting ever? He's a cop, damn it. Or whatever they say.
You can't do this to him. He's a cop, man.
And they shuffle away just like so unassumingly.
And it was that moment that the strike began.
Yeah, honestly.
They're like, shit, I can't do anything to save this guy. I'm out. So he gets blessed to Kingdom Come. Thank God for Anne Lewis, because she comes through as he somehow rolls miraculously through a couple levels. She gets him, takes him off, whisks him away. And then basically that's where we get a cutaway to a commercial for the 6000 SUX. Finally, we get a little bit of dinosaur like stop motion claymation action.
It's back. Big is back because bigger is better.
And then we get Clarence with his face kind of healing up from all the cuts, going to see Dick, and Dick's basically like, "You implicated me, you idiot. You said my name. He recorded it. His memory's admissible as evidence. You gotta
my face. He tried to kill me."
So basically, he bribes him with saying, "Oh, when New Detroit and the construction happens, who's going to be running the drugs and all that stuff?" Well, I guess we're partners again, Richard. So basically, he sets them up with the guns, the tracker with that one light that doesn't move at all if you look at it closely.
No, the map moves, the dot doesn't move. That's how it works back in the 80s.
Lewis and Murphy have been at ironically, the old factory where he died, and basically where he's kind of being born again, rediscovering himself. Takes off the face mask, has to recalibrate his guns. But when he takes the face off, it's just crazy because you're seeing it's literally like his face is just laid over, like, I'm gonna just assume it's laid over like a robot face, because I mean, shit,
Right.
What did they save? I mean, those could be his teeth. I doubt it. Those are probably more like dentures or something in like the mechanism or something like that.
I was gonna say, do you guys think that like with Terminator coming out, they try to make it as different as like to like veer away from obviously him having like a mech face and even like the body?
Probably,
Possibly.
I would say probably. I mean, this is a good 3 years after Terminator 2, so they Terminator as well, not Terminator 2. Sorry,
Right.
but so they definitely wanted to differentiate. So that was definitely one of those things where, again, they were able to kind of keep it original to the thing and have its own mythology and creation. Although it's still weird, the continuity issue where the chin strap doesn't stay on his face or isn't like a second piece when he takes off the top of his helmet. Somehow this is miraculously gone because this is not part of that. That'll never get like resolved or anything like that for me. So Clarence and company come through. And it's kind of funny when they were filming this. The behind the scenes thing is that apparently the guy that was like there helping like handle Peter Weller had Oreos like in a bag, and he was like supposed to give it to him like whenever he was hungry. So Peter Weller literally says Robo wants Oreos, and then he's like, well, Robo's not going to get Oreos until he does this take. And then all of a sudden he says Robo wants Oreos, then all of a sudden he crumbles up the cookies and tosses them off the freaking ledge because he was being that much of a douchebag. He's method actor, so he's thinking he's RoboCop. He's trying to be Robo Method. I'm like, and apparently Peter Weller has no recollection of this. He says, I have no fucking idea what he was talking about in the interview. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. This is too funny. So they start going after him. He starts picking them off here and there. Leon tries to go and shoot him up down a corridor. Emil tries to hit him, but ends up going into this toxic waste. And somehow he has like a gingerly leap out of the way. Somehow.
No, again, it's a pivot. It's like a pivot, then a big step.
It was a hot step, man. Hot step.
There you
like
go.
NBA 2K. And then the dude literally gets like, acid. Oh God. Oh
Yeah.
He goes to try and get some help from. Yeah. He goes to try and get some help from Leon. He's like, "Don't touch me, man."
Don't forget like the bone.
The bone and the thumb is again great point,
like,
Ricardo. Like the prosthetics in this movie are excellent. Like,
oh God.
Yeah.
For real.
So good.
So good. So good. And then while that's happening, Anne's actually chasing Boddicker, who got into the car. And then as they're being chased, freaking Emil comes out and he freaking like splats him and the head's still rolling. So this is where I was talking about. So he got it the worst, maybe, but his suffering was ended kind of quick though, wasn't it? Like for him burning and stuff, do you think maybe? Or was his head still alive and rolling as he was splatted? This is a sick question to ask. This is probably
put him out of his misery, I guess. Like, I mean, he's been kind of getting it the whole entire movie. So I mean, it kind of just like I was like, we already like, brutally hurt this guy this whole entire movie. Let's just like take him out. Kind of like Spider too. That was another thing.
Yeah, it was like all over the windshield and stuff. I'm just like, they end up getting the chase all the way to the quarry. Clarence crashes, and then Anne steps out, and then she gets nailed, so she gets shot in the shoulder, so she's kind of like out of the game for a minute. And then all of a sudden, you see Murphy starting to come out.
Clarence!
Bye-bye, baby. Clarence!
Okay, I give up. I'm not taking you in anymore. I'm gonna kill you. Wait a
Well,
minute.
no,
You can't be
he
serious.
sees Nash up top first, and that's when he's like, "Oh yeah."
But he kind of gets a little concerned because he's getting too close to him until the
Right.
pile of like all the junk just drops right on him, and I'm like, lucky that the face didn't get cut or anything, right? FaceTime.
Miraculously.
And then all of a sudden, they're celebrating, and Anne has enough wherewithal and consciousness to like grab one of the big, rifles and blast that whole freaking thing. And then Clarence has had it up to here with Robocop's bullshit, so he just rolls up on him with a stick, a la Terminator 2, kind of copying them later on. But he's like banging on him, wailing on him, and then all of a sudden he stabs him. The most blood curdling scream in the entire movie. Like ugly face scream. And then all of a sudden he's like getting too close, man. And I'm like, that was not a smart idea to get too close to that guy.
Then he fingered him. The amount of blood that comes out of Clarence is just ridiculous.
Splat.
It's like, man, we have 25-gallon drums of blood. We just need to get rid of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
We're almost done filming. Let's get rid of this stuff.
Robo's like, Lois, it's okay. They'll fix everything. And I'm just like, oh, so
she goes, Murphy, I'm really fucked up.
Yeah. So after that happens, we see a busted old Tin Man looking, oil leaking, cracks blasted up Murphy heading back to the OCP headquarters. Of course, who's there? It's another Ed 209, baby. So we're gonna have a great, fight, another, shoot off. No, because Murphy came prepared with that big ass 50 cal, and what is it? It was like 2 or 3 shots, and then he just goes right in.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing legs. We're thinking something's going to happen, and then the legs move more into the frame. It's literally just the legs with the legs and eggs special. No, I'm kidding. The legs coming through with a fan spinning, and then all of a sudden, and the detail again for the stop motion, the freaking leg thing wiggling. Like, come on, man, who does this? Who makes this? Who makes this shit up? Geniuses, wizards. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Talent.
He gets to the boardroom. There's another meeting going on, and then all of a sudden, Dick Jones is feeling the heat right now. He's like, "Get him out of here! That machine's malfunctioning." And then he's talking about, "How can I help you, officer?" Dick Jones is wanted for murder. Those are serious allegations. What proof do you have? And then he ends up showing the video and stuff.
I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake.
And then as soon as the video happens again, how the hell is there a loaded weapon, a loaded Desert Eagle with a clip inside of a boardroom? Is this like standard issue here?
Hey, you never
Shouldn't
know.
it be?
Sometimes you gotta threaten people to get the deal done, I guess. Huh?
Listen, these doors will not open until I have your signature signed by hand or in blood, sucker. That's it.
Right.
Corporate, son. No. Anyways, so he grabs the old man because at that point he's dead to rights. He snitched on himself. The clip's playing. I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake. Good thing that RoboCop had the wherewithal to say, my programming will not allow me to arrest, a senior officer of the company. Yeah. And the old man's like, oh, okay, I got something for your ass.
Dick, you're fired!
Thank you.
Thank you. Boom.
Thank
you.
And then we get the spaghetti arms out the window.
This dummy, I mean,
yeah,
it is the most ridiculous looking thing I've ever seen.
Depending on who you ask, again in the RoboDoc, it's the camera lens's fault or it's the guy's fault for making it that freaking length of the arms or whatever. Listen,
yeah.
Like, did you think
it's a
like,
real screwed up lens to do that?
Hey guys, you know what? This didn't work. Can we just do it a different way? Or
hey, can we maybe like have Ronnie Cox actually like follow like a blue screen, kind of like they did with like Hans Gruber? I mean, would that be possible? Because that was smart and that looked 100% real. I'll never get over the fact that how real that freaking scene looks. Plus, the reaction was a genuine fucking reaction. So yeah, so I mean, and then after that happens again, we get the cool spin off and then right into the holster. Nice shooting, son. What's your name? Murphy. And at that point, like I feel like his voice wasn't robotic; he was natural with it. because there was just a little bit of robotic kind of cadence when he does RoboCop, even without the helmet on. But at that moment, he was just like Murphy, like right back to being like 100% normal human. And I'm just like, wow, that's like, I don't know.
You know
But
what's kind of realizing too?
yeah,
No one's freaking out about the cyborg man with his face stretched on a bunch of metal head or
listen,
metal parts.
he's got no ears. The back
That's
of his
true.
head is like, listen, man, I would be freaking the fuck out. I'm just saying, I would be freaking out. But I mean that regardless, the movie ends on this triumphant thing. That fucking awesome theme comes through, and it's just feel good. It's like, again, you're back, man. You got back to where you started. You're back to being human, all that other stuff. So, not to get too ahead of myself, it's kind of a little bit bittersweet because this movie ends so great, and then the next ones kind of happen, and it's almost like they take a back step in certain aspects. But we'll cover that more if we have a chance to delve into the other movies.
A lot of 80s movies did this because they usually are one-offs and they get successful and they have to backpedal. So they essentially make the same movie again, but they change. I mean, that's literally what RoboCop 2 is.
Well, okay, so arguably it's not, but at the same time, I don't think that the direction and the choices that they made for it were the best in mind because there was a strike, as there tends to be whenever a movie suffers. There was like a first-time writer, and Frank Miller, oddly enough, the famous comic book artist and writer, this was his first movie that he actually wrote as script for.
Oh wow!
And this started his kind of getting burned by Hollywood. And even RoboCop 3 took elements of another script that he had too. But like it was just a recipe for disaster. Plus, like the music was off. I mean, and just no one wanted to be there. And then there was issues with the director and some of the cast. We can get into that like for sure. But this one, evergreen, priceless. It was a blockbuster. It was beyond cult famous. It made money. It was kick-ass. It was a feel-good time, even though it was kind of a messed up movie to a certain degree. It had grit. It had heart. It had like so much stuff and awesome action and very clever. And to this day, it still inspires some movies that were kind of like, again, like we said before, Iron Man kind of drew from that a little bit because of the way that he moves and the way the suit is sort of, you're not going to not kind of pay a little bit of homage or look to this as kind of like an inspiration of sorts, you know? Sure. So yeah, I mean, this movie is still fantastic. I think it's awesome. I think that this movie stands the test of time, and it doesn't really date itself. I think we talked earlier. This was supposed to be set in like the 2040s, not that far off, and it still kind of feels like it could be taking place now, even like in early 2000s or even in the 90s, like retro futuristic. It wasn't so far in advance that it was unattainable, and it's not so far dated that it doesn't make sense and it doesn't speak to audiences even today. I feel. I mean, that's.
You mean to tell me in 2040 we're gonna have the Ford Taurus?
Yes, the brand new 1987 Ford Taurus in matte stainless steel.
Yes.
Well, maybe not steel, maybe plastic, but it'll look
definitely
like steel.
Plastic for sure.
And it'll be wrapped in vinyl too. That way it keeps it clean. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts?
Like for me, it's definitely a classic movie. And it still stands the test of time in my opinion. Like my biggest thing is obviously the cinematography. I mean, the story, it kind of hits those 80s tropes, but it's kind of, if you look more deep into it, it's about a man obviously losing his humanity, and towards the end of the movie, he finds his humanity. I mean, everything's robotic, but eventually he finds his humanity, finds Murphy. And like you said at the end of the movie, when they ask him, what's your name? He says Murphy, so he finds himself. And I think one of the biggest things for me too is obviously the special effects. Still, during that time, I mean, if you saw it in the movie theaters in the 80s, you would think that, oh shit, like this looks like real life. You know what I mean? And obviously, obviously now you can see, this is a little bit too outdated. But it still kind of holds up in my opinion. But yeah, overall, it's a great movie, and it's a rewatchable for me.
All right, guys. So overall, I think we give this 2 robo thumbs up, right, guys? So,
maybe a middle stabby finger up.
I'm gonna have to Photoshop that right in front of both your hands. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We had a hell of a time. I think I can speak for all of us, right? Reviewing this great movie, still awesome. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. And I also highly recommend, and I think you guys would recommend going to check out, well, actually probably you, Steve, RoboCop Rogue City. That's a great game. Ricardo, I think you still haven't played it just yet, right? But
I
go
haven't
check
played it
that
yet. I
out.
haven't played it yet, but
And
that's gonna be on my list.
for you guys, go check the RoboDoc if you can, because that is a fantastic documentary. So fun, a lot of cool interviews, and especially when Peter Weller starts talking, it's like he's hitting the wine a little too hard. I don't know. That's me personally. I think he's getting a little sauced up, but I don't know. Maybe he's just mellowed out to the point where he just doesn't give a f. That's how it goes. But anyway, guys, this has been such a great time to come back. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for joining me too, guys. And yeah,
Pleasure.
so until next time, guys, as always, I'm Jay. Then you got Steve, you got Ricardo, and I'm going to have their socials down in the description like I always do. So go and show them some love on the different socials and pages. So, guys, again, thank you so very much. And hey, maybe we can get together to do some more movies sooner than later, right?
Yep,
I'll see you in a
sounds good.
year.
Let's hope not.
Sorry, I'm
Let's
just
hope
kidding.
not. But anyway, guys, thanks so much. Take care and bye.